Hey, real quick before we start this video, if you guys haven't noticed, I've been doing a lot of streaming on YouTube lately, and also that includes today at noon PST. I'm going to be doing some Star Deck 10 testing, so you don't want to miss that. But mostly I've been doing that because Twitch has changed its policy, so I can stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, which is really nice. And so as part of that as well, I ended up adding a membership level to my YouTube. So what this kind of means, it's a kind of an analog to a subscription on Twitch. It's $5 a month, and what it gets you is a couple of emotes for this channel and also access to all of my live stream VODs essentially here on YouTube, which is also really nice because the Twitch VODs kind of expire eventually unless I do like some extra saving or backup. So having some permanent locations for all of my live streams I think is really, really nice. So mostly doing some testing, also tournament footage, and tournament footage, as you know, always will be re-uploaded and edited down on the all to see, no restriction on that later in the week after the tournament. So that also includes like the tournament we had for core that should be re-uploaded on Stage Zero's channel later this week, and also the tournament I did at UwuCon on Sunday should be up in the next couple days too. But if you guys want to see that, the raw footage is going to be there behind that membership level. Again, it does support me a lot, and I also do want to dedicate this video to my 5 newest members, which is Jacob, Tritai, Freak Shadow, Jesse Pick, and Christopher. I really do appreciate the support, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the TAC Oceania online regionals that happened this past weekend. It was over 300 players, and there's this top 16 cut that we see here today. And I do also want to shout out to TAC for not only running this event, but also for providing the deck list for this as well. And so jumping into this top 16 real quick, we do have 4 Newgates, 4 Zoros, 3 Laws, 3 Katakuris, and 2 Rebeccas. So honestly, what we've been seeing, not a lot of diversity in this top 5, and honestly, based off just leaders alone, probably the least diverse one that we've seen in this meta. But I do also think it's really interesting that we've seen Rebecca get this top placing, which kind of shows what we had for the other regional. We had the core TCG one that we went over yesterday, where it was a lot of these big 4 leaders, but the finals had Rebecca, had an off leader who ended up winning the entire event too. So I think that's really interesting in this meta where the regular stuff still tops, but we do see the atypical win off some of these more unique leaders, especially some of these more unique OP04 leaders as well. So so we're going to go over the top placing list for each one of these leaders, but also since there's only 5, and to be honest, 4 of them are mostly understood at this point, I did do some extra digging, and we did get some unique 6-2s. So these were, good enough records to have made it into a top 16 finish. So I did want to go over those lists as well. And also, technically, I think this tournament ran, since we had 343 players, it could have gone for 8 or 9 rounds. So the fact that it could have gone 9 rounds means that a lot of these could have bumped up and gotten a better placing if there was a 9th round too. So I do want to just kind of go over these unique 6-2 records too. But we're going to start off with our first place list. So we have Joseph with their Rebecca, and this is honestly pretty standard for what we see for Rebecca. I think most people, the builds aren't as specific. Sometimes you do see some off Dressrosa stuff for a top end. Sometimes we see 10 drop Kuzan. Sometimes we see 10 drop Kaido. Sometimes we see the starter deck Garp gets some play because it is really good at some removal and gets cards out of your hands, which means you can cycle with your leader a little bit easier. But this is kind of the bread and butter basic build for what we're looking at. We have a good amount of removal, but not a really big top end. And then we just try to kind of go for game eventually, right? Rebecca is kind of a tricky deck, especially a deck going, 8-0 is very, very good for this one. So you have to be, on 100%. One mistake with this deck, I feel like you really can't recover from it. And a lot of other decks are kind of afforded 1 or 2 mistakes, and they can still kind of come out on top. So I think that's really strong for the deck. I also think Rebecca is definitely a deck that benefits from having only 8 rounds compared to 9 rounds, because if you see anyone who's played Rebecca, they'll say man, they're at round 7, they are dead. They are just I played Rebecca way too much today. It's been gnawing at my head, and I need a break. So really big congratulations for Joseph for going 8-0 with this build. Not much to really say specifically for it, kind of what we've been seeing, and which again is not too surprising when you have to have such a big amount of Dressrosa cards so your leader doesn't miss. But again, big congratulations to Joseph there. Next up we have second place, which is Newgate here, and this is the more of the Nami build. And honestly, I feel like every week or every event I kind of bounce back and forth if the Nami build or the Straw Hat build places higher, or if the Newgate build places higher. But honestly, it just really depends on like what you want from it. There are some unique choices, and not like super duper unique. Mostly just like the Yasop, which if you're not playing the Ezo, then it doesn't matter. If you're playing Thatcher, this, so being able to play this is, I guess, the cool tech choice, right? But other than that, we have a good amount of 4/6s. We have our Marcos. We have 4 Rush Luffys and 2 Ace, your Newgate, and no blocker Marco, which I'm not too surprised about. 3 Choppers and 3 Barts, which again, Barts and Fossa. This is technically a better Fossa if you're not running Ezo either, so you can add it there, but otherwise pretty standard here. So congratulations for Quinn for their second place finish with Newgate. Next up we have forgive me for this. Chinnakrit, I believe, is kind of close to how you say it, but Chinnakrit with their Trafalgar Law. And despite having a lot of these nice alt arts on this build, it is, again, pretty standard for what this is looking like. Pretty much the only big decision point I see at this point are, one, a couple ratios on some of our 2 drops and 1 drops, but also if we're playing Vista or we're playing Nico Robin. I like Vista because of the immediate, potential for it, and since it does have an on play, you can do some tricky stuff where you play your Trafalgar Law, you bounce it back, you play it again, you get another KO off of it. So that's kind of nice for what it is. But obviously Nico Robin gets like more power throughout the times, and it's also a card that can be found off our Nami. So I think both have some potential, but I do think Vista is probably the one to play more often, based off some more just recent testing. We also have our 4 Law, 4-3 Law split, 1 Luffy, and then also 1 of the Basil Hawkins. So Supernova, again, just being able to use this to really pressure down some bigger bodies is really strong for you. It is something that you can bounce into, which is really nice, and I don't really have much more to say for that. So congratulations to their finish there. And then next up we have Clifford with their Zoro, and I'm pretty sure all the Zoro builds were the event builds. I know that we've had some, small sources of like top 16s with the non-event builds, but by and large, I think for some of these larger events, the event builds are still the way to go. They just have more options. They're not as like glass cannony, and I think that's really, really important, especially for an event that goes longer like this one. So just in general, what we've been seeing, I know that we've seen Gordon prices go up in the last little bit. It's been a really expensive card, but film's just really great, and this is just a really great removal tool for a lot of stuff. So I'm not too surprised there. Just a little rip for people who are still looking for it. We have pretty much our standard bottom end. We have Nami instead of Ezo. I feel like I've been seeing more of like the Ezo builds than the Nami builds more often. And just kind of with all the searches, we can only have so much consistency. So usually it's Buggy, Dadan, and then either Nami or Ezo. So this is more of the Straw Hat build for it, which means we're playing our 2-drop Sanjis, our Brook 2Ks, our Monkey D. Luffy, Zoro, 4 Marcos, but none of the like the blocker, or none of the Flamenco either, because Flamenco could be searched as a Whitebeard Pirates, and I think that's important. But we also do have our events too. So this also just kind of changes what events we see. So Ezo kind of finds more of like the Fire Fist specifically, which means that you are better at finding this consistently. But this one, since all the rest of these events are Straw Hat cards, that means that Nami does have a really, really good chance of hitting on every top 5 from this, which I think is important. So other than that, nothing too crazy. And congratulations to Clifford for their finish. And then lastly, for our true top 16s, we have our 5th place. This is Dan with their Katakuri, and this is, I feel like I've been saying this all day, but this is what we've been seeing. I know a lot of people were off the Charlotte Cracker, but it looks like it's been coming back kind of consistently at like 1 or 2 copies per deck, which is interesting to see. And then we have kind of our top end, 1 Linlin, 3 of the Katakuri, and 4 of the big Linlin, and then also 1 of the Yamato. I think this is fine at 1 of, and sometimes I honestly feel like you either play the 7-drop Linlin or the 9-drop Yam. 7-drop is like really, really, really good on curve, and Yamato is really, really good after curve, right? If you want to apply that pressure and get that tempo game, again, 7-drop is better, but this can get a heal, this can get like, a KO of something, which is great. Usually it doesn't get both, honestly. Either it's late game, so there's only like 3 life between you and your opponent, so it only pops a 3 cost, or it's early game, so you have 3 life, your opponent's at 3 life, so it pops a 6 cost, right? So tricky to get both with getting some real value, but it is strong, and I do think it's okay in this deck. I wouldn't I felt like, why would you play this? And the longer I've gone to this meta, I think it's just fine for what it is. But other than that, just kind of the cards we see. One Arrow, which we don't see very often, but it is a good card, and it does have a good trigger in life. And but other than that, just pretty standard. And congratulations to Dan for their finish there. Next up, we have our unique 6/2s that for this event. And starting off, we have Antony with their Ace build. And Ace has been, I'd say, moderately popular for these last couple weeks. It's been gaining a lot of popularity. I think with Trafalgar Law being really popular, this is probably one of the best matches for it. Zoro go about even. Newgate, I think, is a little bit tough for this deck at times, but you do have ways to overcome it, which is really, really nice. We do run the Curly Dadan, a little bit, only 2 copies of it, but being able to use it to find some of our 1-drops. Since we do play a lot of good 1-drops, we run 16 of them. This Dadan will not miss very often, I feel. We have some Josus, some Marcos, our 7 aces, and then 1 of the Newgate as well. And they're running 20 whole events, which is definitely on the upper side, and I would even say perhaps too many events at times. But it's really tricky. Like once you start adding them to the deck, like which ones are the good ones, which are the ones that I can maybe start not playing. But I do think like Fire Fist obviously very good, Fiery Doll is good, Crossfire is good, especially if you have like Red Hawk, you can get like a 4-cost removal for 2 cards, which is good. 1 Round Table, 1 Jet Pistol, your Flame Emperors, your Seaquakes, and your defensive Rad Beams and Guard Points. So a whole menagerie of events, and being able to play so many means that you have a lot of these unique situations where you get the one that you need in the right situation, and I do think that's also invaluable too. So this is Antony's list. Congratulations for their 6-2 play record for this past weekend. Then also we have Rolland with Magellan as well. So I've been really liking purple, and we should be getting some more purple decks in topping, range with the release of Star Deck 10. But I do know like Magellan and King, and sometimes like Star Deck Kaido does get like the occasional appearance in some of these events if someone's got like a really, really good hot streak. It also comes with if your opponent doesn't play around these decks and into them often, they do get it's really tricky to know what's actually going on, which is really nice. But we looks like we have a lot of like the Impel Down package with Hannibal, our Domino, our Shiki. A lot of our 2Ks, we have our Mino package of the Rhinoceros, Koala, Zebra, and then also we have our X-Drake. We have our 5-cost Magellan, which this is quite the bully. I do think a lot of decks, if you see this on curve, especially since you want to usually go first in this deck, which is I'd say more decks than not would like to go second in this current meta. So being able to, be on curve more times than not, or more often than usual, I think is really good for you. But being able to like do the Don Myas game on your opponent can really mess them up, which I think is very strong. We have 1 copy of Poly. I do like this card a lot now. I used to not, but I think it's in a really good spot right now. We have our Queen. We have our 1 6-drop Luffy, which is okay. More times than not, I'd rather play Poly, but he does get like Rush immediately and can either attack for game. And honestly, if your opponent's not expecting Rush, this can get you in some positions where your opponent kind of blocks differently, and then you play this Luffy and go for game, I feel like sometimes. We play our 6-drop King. We play 2 of the 9-drop Kaidos, which I do love this card. The Jet Gatling, the Thunder Bagua, and then some Hell's Judgments too. So really cool build. I think purple's in a pretty good spot right now and going into Star Deck 10. And it's going to, and then obviously in OP05, as we'll see in the next couple months as well. But this is their list. Congratulations to Rolland for their finish there. Next up, we have Xiaoting with their Star Deck Crocodile. And Crocodile, I think, started off really, really strong at the beginning of this meta. And now that we're a month later, it's just doing okay. I think people understand like the ways to play around this deck and how this deck kind of functions a little bit better. I also do think it does lose to a lot of aggression from Law and Zoro. You do kind of try to play around it. We are playing 4 whole copies of the Dragon Twister Demolition Breath, which is very good, not only as a way to get rid of some obnoxious 1-drops and blockers, but also the trigger in life is so good, being able to return a 6-star last 2 hours hand, which can also help you, I guess, occasionally, but not very often, but that's very, very good. We also have the 3000 Worlds and the Red Rock, which are quintessential for this deck, especially since we have the Missile Sunday. We're running 4 whole copies of Soga King, which is the maximum that you can run for this card. The more I play in this meta, though, the more I feel like this is such a good good card on curve, and then even if you don't see it on curve, it's a 1k counter, right? It does fix a lot of problems, especially if you go first. Being able to return anything that your opponent played last turn essentially for free and to get that tempo back for free, I think is really invaluable. It just kind of helps you get that momentum back. You know, if you played a Marco last turn, guess what? Soga King, bounce it back. You get that removal. They don't really want to invest 5 into another Marco again, but they're probably going to have to. I think that's really good value for you too. So other than that, we do have the Sentomaru package. We're not playing any of the Kuma blocker. We're playing one of the Pacifista blocker, and then a good amount of 2Ks, blockers, and our big end of Mihawk and Kaido as well. And 3 whole copies of Kaido, which is, again, the maximum -1. So this is like the most I've seen in a while. Most people only run 2. So that is the list there. And congratulations to Xiaoting for their finish there. Next up, we have JC with their starter deck, 8 Luffy, the black one. So this has been like on my radar for a bit. I know a lot of people have been playing it, and it does get, honestly, I feel like it's a lot better than I give it credit for a while. Being able to be so good at like generating momentum, the fact that you get, you know, your Dawn for free, like this can go into Newgate pretty great if you're able to kind of match their tempo. You know, you play Sakazuki on your second turn, you know, your third turn, you're able to use a Sakazuki effect to get rid of like an Atmos or something, and then also you get a Dawn underneath Luffy for doing so, so you get a 6k swing. So all that feels pretty good in its own right, and I think that's pretty strong for this deck as well. Just being able to generate that tempo. We have a lot of good blockers with the Porcelain on Sabo. The 4-drop Kuzan, which is definitely been getting really popular. I think this card's been going up in price as well, with more of like speculation with new sets down the line. But really good, and really going to be good, I think, in OP05 Sakazuki as well. The Sengoku as well, kind of like another version of Sakazuki that you can play on your third turn if you're going like first, which is nice. Your 1 Ishos, 2 Shanks, 3 Kuzans, and then your support with the Great Eruption and Impact Wave as well. So really, really fun deck. I do like the Luffy, and honestly, like Rob Lucci, I think both these leaders kind of do some similar things at time, and really cool to see it get a 6-2 finish. So congratulations to JC there. And then to wrap it on up, we do have a Donquixote Doflamingo. So this is Terence's build for it, and this was, you know, the winner of the Core TCG event, which happened within 24 hours of this event, which is really interesting to see. You know, the winner of one event like barely get 6-2 and not get a top 16 finish, like, which is, you know, interesting to see the diversity of some of these I'd say like more like some of these OP04 decks, honestly. For again, like Rebecca won this event, but I don't think Rebecca got his top 16 event, a top 16 finish in the core TCG event, which I think is really interesting. But this is pretty standard. This is honestly pretty close to the build that was run for the core TCG. I think the big difference is that this build is running a little bit more Queen. They are playing the 5-cost event, which is neat. It is some pretty good removal, but I do personally think it is a little expensive for what it is. However, it is like sometimes you don't have like a good turn 3 play in this deck, so being able to do that I think is great. Other than that, just kind of the pieces we see, we got Sugar, we have our Dofi, we have our film package, we have 13 events, but 12 of your 2 costs and one of the 5 costs, and then just kind of everything else. So not really much more to say from that, and congratulations to Terence for their 6-2 finish. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at the unique 6-2s, and I'm really happy to be able to catch those and show them to you guys as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.